Welcome to the Orion Sportscast podcast, the most refreshing analysis, insight, and opinions in the world of sports. Here are your hosts, Josh Egan and Brandon Waterhouse.
All right, welcome back to the Orion Sportscast. We are on November 20th. The outside world, a lot of news breaking surrounding like the pandemic and election stuff, but we're not going to focus on any of that.
No, we are not.
Sports talk is where we thrive. We're going to get right into it. Some breaking news breaking about an hour and a half to 2 hours ago. The Toronto Raptors have been declined from playing in Toronto this season. And then about 5 minutes later, it broke that they will start the season and play in Tampa Bay. So that's why I'm repping my Lightning jersey, because I don't own anything else that's Tampa Bay related. Raptors not playing in Toronto. Tampa Bay will be their home for this season. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Yes, that's huge news. The first thing right away was like the city of champions, like Tampa Bay has got the Lightning. They don't have, do they have the World Series, right? No, that's the Dodgers, right? And then they were fantasizing about Tom Brady being the other championship part about Tampa Bay, I guess is what I was trying to say. But for the Raptors, right, coming off of 2 years ago, a championship season, this is good culture for them for sure. It's a good place to be around. They're familiar, like I said, it might have been the last or 2 episodes ago, they were familiar with the state, at least, because that's where the bubble was held, right, in Orlando.
Yeah.
So, in terms of weather and the climate, that's good news, right? So they've been accustomed to that. It's not really much of a winter, so it's going to be weird for free agents this year, to be honest with you, because maybe in the coming days, people will sign a 1 or 2 year deal with the Raptors because they won't have to live in Canada, and then instead they get to live in Tampa for a year.
Right.
But,
and I don't think they're playing the full season there. They don't plan to, because it says that they're going to start the season, but I can't see. They just extended the border closure for another 30 days till, I think, December 18th or December 21st or something. So I don't think they'll be coming back anytime soon. But, it's good they found a home. They seem to get around to it a lot quicker than the Blue Jays did. The Blue Jays season had already started, and they still didn't have a home. So they seemed to find one pretty quickly, and it seemed that they were expecting this because they announced it pretty much 5 minutes after it was announced they won't be in Canada. So it's kind of like, I'm sure this didn't happen, but Trudeau called up Masai and said, you can't play here. So Masai was like, okay, we're going to Tampa. But no, it's good for them, and Tampa's not the worst place to live. I'm sure
no, not at all.
I'm sure they'll be comfortable, and it's exciting news. So.
Right to follow that, we got the Toronto Raptors, basketball-wise, investing some time and consideration into Tristan Thompson of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Right.
This also kind of broke at the same time of the Tampa Bay news. It seems to be, the only thing that I've heard about Tristan Thompson in terms of where he would sign. So hopefully this is something serious. He's experienced. I was telling you earlier with his championship with the Cavaliers and LeBron, and he's Canadian as well, which will hopefully maybe render some kind of edge to signing with us, because I would greatly consider him an asset to the team for sure, especially if we're going to lose Serge to free agency and Gasol, if he's not coming back to American basketball or not. He can't really shoot too well, but he'll dominate the post and he'll get the rebounds for sure, which is something that we're going to need if we lose what we've had there surrounding the center position.
Right. And that'd be a good signing for the Raptors. If he comes, is a different story. But we also had some other news coming out of the NBA, and I think the biggest one kind of broke, what was it, like 5 minutes into the draft. And that's Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors is going to be missing the whole season. He blew out his Achilles. He's expected to make a full recovery because of the type of tear it was. But this is going to be, I think it's 583 games potentially, 583 days between games that he might be waiting, which is...
Man, I'm so sad about this. I'm not necessarily the biggest Warriors fan. I'm not even necessarily the biggest Klay Thompson fan, but the one thing I am is a huge basketball fan,
right?
And NBA fan in general, and especially for like the dynamic of the league. You thought as a fan coming into this year that Klay Thompson would make the Golden State Warriors completely irrelevant, completely more relevant than they were last year, with Clay, Steph, Wiggins, and second overall draft pick, and Draymond Green back. But people are still thinking they can climb into middle of the West, but it's a huge gash to their chances at a championship again. A lot of questions around if their dynasty is over or if they'll ever get back to championship contenders. A lot of people are saying that this also gives time for Clay. In similar situations in the past, people have come back, they've said, in like the purest shooting form, they don't do anything but shoot, because his athleticism and his agility might be hindered coming back from this, especially how sensitive his body could be. So if he decides to come back and risk his body or whatever again, he might just be a complete catch and shoot type of player, which he's done. He scored a record amount of points on a record limited amount of dribbles before. I don't know what the numbers was, but he can score, for example, like 30 points off of 4 dribbles just by catching and shooting. So if he can get himself healthy, I feel bad. It's not even the physical health that I feel too bad for. For him, he's got to be just absolutely cutting, like it's got to cut deep for him emotionally. In his head, he had just come back of leaving in the middle of a championship run against the Raptors, and he worked all this hard back through one of the hardest years of everyone's lives right now with coronavirus, and he was ready to come back and try basketball, and he didn't even get that chance to show us what we had to expect to see. It sucks, I'm rambling, but at the same time I love Klay Thompson because he's just kind of automatic from 3, and that's something that I value when I'm watching basketball.
Right. And it's always a shame to see an athlete of his magnitude and his skill go down with an injury like that. No one ever wants to see that, just for the growth of not just the game, but sports in general. So it's going to be a shame, but it's going to open up an opportunity for somebody else, and hopefully they can take it and run with it. But moving on, we have another big player. Big news. Gordon Hayward has opted out of his contract. So $34 million. And he will become a free agent when the free agent period opens up on, I believe, November 22nd. So,
yeah, this is big news. Gordon Hayward is kind of coming off of. He came back into the bubble. He was a late arrival to the Celtics. He was battling another injury, or maybe even something related to coronavirus. I'm not necessarily too sure, but he was late to the bubble rather, and they were really excited to get his addition to the team. I'm not sure what his stats were the whole past 2019-2020 season. However, in the past, Gordon Hayward's proven to be like a difference maker in wins, and on his teams he's been on, he can help win games, and he's someone that you can rely on as well. So the rumors are that he's trying to go into the market, and we're trying to see the Knicks make space for him.
Yeah,
the Knicks are trying to make a lot of moves in the rumors, but if the Knicks can just make something that makes their rookies want to stay around, like RJ Barrett and a couple of the other young players, that especially Obi Toppin that just got drafted there. You want to build a culture that you kids want to be around, even if it's just Gordon Hayward, who knows what he's doing. And he's been through a lot himself, and injuries, gruesome injuries and comebacks. And he's a player that can play basketball for sure. And he's underrated. And I hope that he gets more light wherever he goes for sure, because it's been a while since we've ever heard about Gordon Hayward.
Right. And the Knicks are one of the teams rumored to be in on him, and they just freed up a bunch of space by waiving Bobby Portis and Taj Gibson, and also Alfred Payton to free up cap space. So the New York team making moves. Hopefully they can become a little bit more relevant than they have been. So
speaking of absolutely not making moves, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Sacramento Kings just absolutely fucked a handshake on a trade lately. And Bojan Bogdanovic, I guess, didn't necessarily agree upon the deals or even just the idea of going to Milwaukee. And so there's been some tampering investigation now open because the trade just wasn't done, and it leaked out to the public in a way that everyone thought it was officially done.
Yeah, this is
kind of
weird.
bad on the management parts of both teams, I would imagine. It's something that would have, definitely increased Milwaukee's chances of being a more of a competitive team for sure. I'm not necessarily sure. Do you have any more information on the details on this one?
No, I know there was a sign. It was rumored there was a sign-in trade.
That's the word.
The player who was sign and trade didn't agree to it, and so it never went through.
You haven't really seen this lately,
right? Right, and
I don't know if you've seen it at all recently, and especially in our lifetime, it's like you really know that if a trade goes down through social media, it's like official, and it kind of it's not going to happen backtracks, especially at this magnitude. But at the same time, I literally just thought about the fact that I can give a little bit of leeway. It's coronavirus, and there's some kind of difficulties with communication these days.
Yeah.
And maybe there was some kind of lost messages, files. Who knows, right? Like it's everything's happening a lot faster, especially because people are trying to turn the season around and get their chemistry right away. If they can get a player on their team right now, and like within this week instead of 2 weeks, then they can start hanging out in the city, right?
Right. And I don't
someone get Josh coffee.
Oh man, yeah, I'm drinking.
And,
I'm drinking an iced coffee right here.
Someone put a yawn counter, maybe
Counter.
If not in the comments, if not in the top right corner for us. But I'm still gonna come at you. Josh is coming off of some pretty bullshit meetings from school. I can definitely relate from that. There's no time for school, and there's nice weather, and there's other things to do, especially at school.
I'm just looking outside and thinking it could be a good day for golf, but
we still want to come at you with something that we do regularly, and that's what we try to do. But we'll move right along. We don't want to be too long in NBA news. There's a lot that went on. The Raptors did find a new home. The champion Chargers are undergoing. We'll move right on to a little bit of recap last night. Huge rematch, I think, right, in the NFL on Thursday Night Football of this season.
I don't know if it was a rematch. I think the rematch angle was from last season, and this game had the potential going in to be one of the top games of the year. Seahawks Cardinals, two shutdown quarterbacks. Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks in prime time television, so that would be Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night. And the Cardinals are coming off a huge win against the Bills, and Kyler Murray was looking to have a big game. And it just didn't happen. The Seahawks beat the Cardinals 28-21. The Cardinals ran into some serious penalty trouble. Kyler Murray was 29 for 42, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson, 23 for 28, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the story of this game really was, the Cardinals had a lot of penalty trouble near the end. There was fights, there was holding penalties. I think the first time I've ever seen this, there was a holding penalty in the end zone, which led to a safety. And so the Seahawks got some points off of that. And it just, the beginning of the game was really good. It kind of trailed off near the end as the Cardinals lost focus and tired out. And I don't think I could really blame them for that because they had a short week. They played Sunday and then into Thursday, which NFL teams for some reason don't like doing, but it's part of your schedule, so deal with it. But so the Cardinals lose that one. They, they're still looking good. They're 6-4. The Seahawks are 7-3. So the Seahawks now sit at the top of that division. But that final score of that one, 28-21. And so, kind of some news broke before this game with that the Cardinals, DeAndre Hopkins, and the Seahawks, Bobby Wagner, have decided to become their own agents. And the quote coming out of this was, "Show me the money." So they feel like they should get paid and that they can get themselves the most money because they know they're worth the best and not their agents. I guess they don't want to pay the agent cut. Agent cuts can be anywhere from 6.5% to 12.5%. So you got a multi-million-dollar contract that could be quite a big cut. But Hopkins is coming off that big catch against the Buffalo Bills, so maybe he was feeling himself. And he is a pretty good receiver. I think he's the youngest receiver to catch 700 receptions before the youngest receiver ever to reach 700 receptions. So good for him. He's probably going to get paid. And
speaking of getting paid, he didn't really necessarily get paid, but if he's a fanatic of the video game world, he got paid in the sense that he got boosted in a 99 rating in Madden just from like one catch. It's like how over exaggerated, right? Like
I don't know about that.
It's just good to see someone over the season and then their overall. Like if we're classifying players on their whole overall based on one play at a game, then we're at a whole different level of like analytics in sports these days because it's not necessarily even fair. Just to kind of make Madden is probably trying to make some sort of advertisement profit off of the fact that this is such a sweet catch in NFL, happened in our league. Come look at our guy on our video game. He's like the best. He'll catch you every ball.
100%. Well, 99% according to Madden. So. So that happens. And just some strange news, not strange, but just some side news for the Seahawks. Their stadium will be renamed to Lumen Field. I would try looking up the cost of the deal because usually these stadium deals are pretty big, and I couldn't find a cost on it. But
it'll probably come out within a couple of weeks, to be honest with you, if it's rather new news.
I imagine it's in the billions.
Yeah, I'd imagine too, especially with what we've been learning these days.
Yeah, and so that's just Seahawks renaming their stadium, so nothing really.
A little quick hitter on NFL completing yards and the quarterback ratings. What's that?
Yeah, so quarterbacks are completing passes at the highest rate through week 10 ever. Like this is an NFL record, and that percentage is 65.7% completion rate through all quarterbacks. Drew Brees leads that at 73.5%. Obviously, he's injured now, but
That's the hell I threw it down your way.
yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting, kind of a cool stat that we're seeing the most production out of quarterbacks ever. It's really cool. It's good for the game because that's what we want to see. We want to see
That's what I'm saying too.
throws, catches, all that stuff.
I'm one to just look at the game where it goes down to running, and I'm like, okay, this looks like brick and mortar. Give me a door and let me bang my head into it. I don't really like the running game. I mean, especially when it goes 5 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, and you get first down after first down, and the drive takes 8 minutes. I get it when you're a coach and you need to rest your players, the arms, the receivers. However, if you can just kind of play your team, you have so many players on a football team. If you let your kids have more chances, then you can still run that type of deep offense that has energy and excitement, and then still hit runners when you get caught off guard.
Right, and it's
Speaking of getting caught off guard,
it's going to be interesting to see. Just on a side note for this, if Drew Brees will keep that by the end of the season, the completion rate, because he's not going to be playing games, but he can still keep his completion rate, right? So we'll see if that holds up. But yeah, just it's not really a.
I wonder what the completion rate was for assistant coach of the Giants. His punches on the landing, I think one of them might have hit, and that cost him his job, especially because there's a little altercation.
Okay. So I've heard two sides of this. You tell the side that is the most entertaining side, and then I'll tell the story that probably happened, and then we can decide which one we want to go with.
Exaggerated news would lead me to believe that two coaches, I believe it might have been the offensive and the head coach, got into an altercation, I would imagine, on the sidelines during a practice early in the morning. I think maybe the head coach tried to act tough, but I read that the offensive coach was literally like a former player. He's absolutely huge. He's not going to take something from anyone, regardless of the position. He took the fight a little bit too hard or too far, and might have just socked the head coach in the face. There was no agreement after that to anything that came to a conclusion, and I think the guy lost his job. What else do you have to say?
Well, the version that I heard was that the head coach went up to the offensive coach and said, "Hey, do you mind if I bring in a consultant?" And the offensive coach took offense to this, obviously, because you're asking if he can bring in a consultant to help this guy with his job. So obviously you're doing a terrible job. And the exchange got really heated, but apparently no punches were thrown. The Giants refuted this. I don't know how true that is.
That was the first thing I read.
That's the first thing I read too. But if you want a story to break, the guy was fired. He did lose his job. That's the correct part. I think personally punches were thrown because the Giants are going to try and cover this up because they've been a gong show all season, right? So they want that covered up if punches were thrown. Also, from an entertainment perspective, I hope punches were thrown. So I'm just going to go with that. But just be aware.
Be aware. If I was a former NFL player, he probably just ruined the head coach's day.
Right. And when I saw this story, I felt for you and your joke of an NFL team.
Yeah, especially after like you said that we were having a tough year in the news, and that was like after Saquon and Dane went to like a bar a couple weeks ago in the middle of New York, which has like the highest rates of coronavirus in America, which is just absolutely bizarre. We're not going to talk too much about the fact that the coaches in New York still can't agree on everything, but maybe the Panthers can agree to start their PJ Walker at quarterback, who has not started in almost 4 years now, as the league as was going to get known to as well as it was, and once again the XFL. What do you have to say?
So I watched when the XFL was announced. I watched pretty much every game for the first 5 weeks because I thought the product was entertaining as hell. They did some stuff that was totally different.
Especially the rules. The rules were just odd.
The rules were odd, but also the game presentation because they were doing interviews like mid-game, and I remember. I don't think it was PJ Walker who did the interview, but he was involved in the game. And the quarterback he was playing threw an interception, and then they interviewed him right away. He just goes, "I don't know, bad throw, I guess." And then
I thought that was a dream, but that was literally a league. That's hilarious.
And I was like, this is entertaining. Like they're interviewing coaches like mid-quarter and all that. And I thought, wow, this is wild. But yeah, PJ Walker could be looking at his NFL start for the Panthers this week. Like you said, he hasn't lost a game since 2016 between college and the XFL. Now that stat is a little bit skewed because that's only 7 games. His last 2 games in college, he didn't lose, and then his 5 in the XFL, he didn't lose. He did light up the XFL though. He was like lapping other quarterbacks. So this guy does have, I would say, low to mid-tier NFL quarterback potential. So it'd be interesting. I hope they do start him because I think it'd be a really cool story.
I agree too. I think that it's good for the Panthers if they can get this going.
It'd be a feel-good story too, right? Like you're coming from a league that's run by a guy who scripts fights over to Roger Goodell.
Guy who fought for him, yeah. Anyway.
Maybe I'll go work for Vince McMahon again, not Roger Goodell.
I didn't know this, but apparently the backup quarterback, Andy Dalton, is this what we're referring to on the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, he had a
COVID. That coronavirus hit him hard, but I didn't even realize that it would affect an athlete at that kind of level. What do you have to say?
Well, his comments said that COVID hit him hard, and saying that he's still kind of recovering, feeling the effects. That just goes to show like how serious this thing is, and if athletes get it, they're
they're just as human as everyone else.
Yeah, they're not invincible to it, and it does attack your respiratory system, so it is going to affect athletes. And I think
that has a huge deal to do with everyone's endurance.
Right, yeah, it's a big deal. He said this, not kind of hiding it and saying like, no, this shit's serious, take it seriously. So I don't think we're going to be seeing him for a little bit longer, but
a little bit while, yeah, for sure,
a long while. But we had a game last night, and we already wrapped it up, so we won't do it.
Yeah,
I don't know where my head was there. What I meant to say.
Give me your top 3 favorite games to look forward to this weekend on Sunday, not Monday, but give me the Sunday favorites.
My Sunday games. What a question. I will go with. I'm going to break it up into the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock, and then the 8 o'clock. So
I was going to ask you to do that, but I wasn't going to make you. But good for you.
Yeah, I'll do this. So my 1 o'clock game that I'm looking forward to is the Bengals and the Washington football team. I'm choosing this one because I think the Bengals are just entertaining to watch with Joe Burrow, and the Washington football team has been kind of falling off a cliff a little bit. They're 2-7, and the Bengals are 2-6-1. So I think the Bengals can get into this now. That's going to be a good game. I don't know what the spread is, and I'm not going to pull it up mid-show, but I think the Bengals will take that one. My 4 o'clock game, the one I will be watching at 4 o'clock, I will be looking at Cowboys-Vikings. Cowboys they keep saying they're there, and they're only missing a couple pieces. I think everybody in the football world disagrees with them. They're 2-7, kind of haven't really shown any promise, while the Vikings are 4-5 and look to continue to roll through the season and make a push for the playoffs, and they could be having an easy win against the Cowboys here. And then obviously the Sunday night game, we have Chiefs-Raiders. That is a game that could be a spicy one, because apparently after the last game where the Raiders beat the Chiefs, ending a 14-game win streak, the Raiders did victory laps around the Chiefs stadium in their buses, and this pissed off Andy Reid, who's the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I didn't see a big deal with it unless like some guy was mooning them out the bus, but like, if the Chiefs win this one, are they going to be doing laps around the stadium in their buses? I thought this was a really strange story.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't want to spend too much time on stuff that it's kind of petty like that, but I think as a former athlete, there's always stuff I've wanted to do to a team that I've beat, and that's necessary. And that's something that like I haven't even necessarily thought of, especially because you don't really have that. You don't have that much time to like drive around the thing. You want to go home.
Yeah.
So I kind of salute them for that. That's petty, and that's kind of winning another game within the game, right?
And like, whose decision was this? Like, did one of the players just tell the bus driver, "Yo, do 2 laps around the stadium before we leave"?
Honestly, as again coming from just an experience, if you get like one person who makes the idea, he'll get his following, and then all of a sudden, I'm sure the whole bus is making that bus driver do it. And the bus driver is surrounded by professional athletes at this point. He's probably not going to refuse anything that they ask him to do.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily something that's putting anyone in danger. I'm sure a couple laps wasn't a big deal. However, you're right. I think I'm not sure. I mean, maybe if the officials like team management and coaches were on the bus, they might have a frown on their face, but I'm sure they had their own way of transportation. Maybe this was just a couple coaches on the bus who just kind of looked the other way when it happened. So who cares? It's funny. Have you discussed your Sunday nighter now?
Yeah, that is my Sunday nighter.
So, we have a lot to go over today, especially even in football too. Not only the NFL, but the Canadian Football League here in our home country kind of had a rough go with financial reasons and just no season this past year. We have a lot of information on that coming up soon. There's actually a lot of good sightings in terms of relevance in the CFL coming back. One of them is just his branding. We got the Argos.
So before we get to any of that, the CFL released their schedule today for the 2021 season. So each team is going to get some preseason games. The preseason will kick off on May 23rd. It's not going to be a bubble format. It's going to be you're playing at your home stadiums and traveling, and they hope to have fans in the buildings. Now, people are saying already, well, this season's not kicking off till the preseason doesn't kick off till May 23rd, and the actual season doesn't kick off till June 10th. So we are going to see CFL football in the summer, which is great because that's kind of a Canadian staple, even though sometimes not everybody watches the CFL.
I love it for the small town communities of Canada, especially because where we're from, you drive by like Cannon Street and you got people repping the yellow and black gold flags all around the Tim Hortons Stadium, and it's something that you can experience too if you're not close to the NFL. And now we're not going to be able to go across the borders and see the Bills play probably for a little bit. So maybe by the time this comes, we can comfortably watch the Ticats play or the Argos play. It's exciting. We're trying to have a lot of information on local sports, Canadian sports, and athletes who are experiencing those things as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it will be a 21-week season. So they're going to kick off June 10th and play through till October 30th, and then the playoffs will start. And the Grey Cup date is November 21st. Will be the 108th Grey Cup.
Yeah, that's a lot of history in the CFL. The Argos are bringing back a little bit of history with the old little logo that came from the it looks like it came from like the ocean or like the sea, and a little bit of
they're bringing the boat back.
The boat kind of theme back into the logo, which is cool. You're not always sure what they're trying to message across other than like two different shades of blue for their branding. So if they get a logo back in their mix, maybe we'll have an interesting uniform, and Toronto can have a nice team to look at in CFL.
Right, and this story is kind of relevant now because it turned out to be correct, but the commissioner did say yesterday that he's optimistic about a new season starting on time and then being able to play a full 21-week season with full playoffs and a Grey Cup being played. And it turns out he was right because the schedule was released today, so full steam ahead for the CFL, it looks like, which is nice. And also,
we're excited.
There was supposed to be a expansion team kicking off out in Atlantic Canada, so the Atlantic Schooners. Now, I know a schooner as a giant beer, but a schooner is apparently also a ship, so that would be their logo and not just like a giant pint of Molson.
Schooner.
Yeah, schooner. Yeah, it's a giant beer. It's like this size but bigger. But so their dreams are still alive. If they were to kick off, it would be in the 2022 season, so they won't be joining the season this year. It will be in 2022. So that's just some CFL news, and we will have some more CFL news for you on Tuesday. We're going to have somebody come on to talk CFL with us, and I'm not going to give away much more than that, but you'll see. Stay tuned.
That's exciting for us, especially because, like I said earlier, we want to bring you someone that is close to home and has a little bit of experience that maybe you've been around too, especially if you local football growing up here in Canada. We'll move right along to something that's very local in Canada here. We got the hockey and we got NHL, and we have players feeling angry and betrayed by the NHL and this new CBA amendment. I'm not necessarily too sure on the details about this. I love that when you bring up something with numbers and statistics that you kind of say it broadly on the notes, but I want to hear what the details are about this story.
All right, so this might take a couple minutes. So when the NHL returned to their return to play in the bubbles, they signed a return to play amendment. So what this did, it changed the CBA for the next 6 years. So they knocked out two birds with one stone with this. They renewed the CBA, which is the collective bargaining agreement, which is pretty much the agreement between the players and the owners. And they were also able to come up with an agreement for the bubble and a return to play action. So what this did was the owners said to the players, look, we can come back and play, but we're going to have to take a 10% deferment off your pay. So for the next 2 seasons, I think it was, they were going to get 10% less, but then over the 3, they would make that money up with that 10% going back into their pay once hockey related revenue was back up. Well, now the league is saying that they need an additional 13% deferment on top of the current 10%. So that's a 26% deferment from their salaries. It's going to be a cut salary anyway, because it looks like they're only going to play a 60-game season. And also escrow has gone up because they need to guarantee that there's a 50-50 split between hockey-related revenue and what the owners keep. So it's kind of, it's not quite at lockout level of panics, but people are starting to panic a little bit because the players are saying, why do you need more money from us here? You know, you should be able to run this without us taking a deferment or taking money out of our paychecks. And it's just, they need to get this sorted out because they're still aiming for that January 1st start date. And the two sides still have not met. Like the NHL and the NHLPA and the Return to Play Committee, which now has 31 players, haven't met, haven't hammered anything out. But I think once they get into the same room and just start talking about this, it's going to be figured out because
it's time for crisis.
It's still there.
It's not time for stallment, especially when there's not much else to do and you're given the opportunity to play.
Yeah. And they have confirmed there will be 4 divisions. The Canadian division will be happening, and then they'll have East, Central, and West in the States. So they kind of just split the States, like we said earlier on, into 3. But yeah, it's time the NHL got it together, and I hope they can. And there's been conflict reporting because I've seen, and I tweeted about this. I don't know if you saw it. I requoted a tweet from Nick Kyprios, who is just, we won't go there, but
near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah, but he was saying that the owners are, not afraid to cancel the season, and I'm thinking, why? Like then these players still have contracts, you still have to pay them, and I don't know. Like I think
we don't spend too much time talking about some old guy like that.
There's fear mongering reporting going on, and it's not good. So let's get this figured out. And I hope we see them on the ice January 1st. I think personally now it's going to be January 15th. It seems kind of past the deadline for January 1st start. We're already at November 20th. Camps would have to open December 10th.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but
hopefully they can get it and get going.
Yeah.
However, I think something is on the horizon because Mikko Lehtinen, who has rights for the Toronto Maple Leafs, waived and bought himself out of his contract with Joker in the KHL. So he will be flying back over here to start his quarantine so he can start skating with the Leafs players.
That's also because I don't think that league is having that team compete in the
right.
In the other league as well. So he also needs competition here. And speaking of international competition, we have the International Ice Hockey Federation World Championship moving from Belarus to Moscow. Co-host Latvia will keep its games. What is this? What year is this actually?
This is for this year, or 2021, sorry, and 2020 into 2021. But I just think it's because of coronavirus and financials and all that. There weren't too many details coming out of it. I just thought it was interesting because this story kind of flew under the radar. Like when you move a major hockey tournament, you usually hear about it, but I didn't. It was kind of buried underneath everything else, and I guess that's because there's news breaking all the time right now. But to move it was co-hosted between Belarus and Latvia, and now it's going to be between Moscow and Latvia. So
I had no idea where it was hosted. That's why I asked what year, because I've just been seeing, Team Canada in Red Deer, so I didn't know if it was in Canada or not. But I think you're right.
That's the World Juniors. This is the IIHF World Championship.
Oh, so I'm even more lost, which is great.
Yeah, so that's the senior competition. So we'll just see that as a new host. The tournament's still going forward, same amount of teams. Latvia is going to keep its games, but Belarus has lost the hosting rights and Moscow has them now. So we'll see how that goes down, if players are going to want to travel to Russia to play there. So we'll see when that comes around, how that handles out. Speaking of stuff being moved and traveling and all that, ECHL teams, the Eastern Conference Hockey League, which is below the AHL, it looks like
they still have affiliation to the NHL, which is great.
Yeah. But most of their teams have suspended operations for next season because they can't play moving forward with the COVID restrictions, which is a shame. Those teams don't make a lot of money and they can't justify spending out all this money and not being able to make much in return. So the closest team to us here is the Brampton Beast, the ECHL. I think they're affiliated with the Ottawa Senators.
I thought it was the Montreal Canadiens, but it might have been changed to the
I'm pretty sure it's the Sens. It might be both actually, but yeah, they won't be playing either. The Maple Leafs team, the
Newfoundland Grizzlies or Growlers.
Newfoundland Growlers are folding a bunch of other teams too, and this is a real shame to see because but it's also understandable being in a league that doesn't bring in that much money. So we'll see. Hopefully they can start back up soon, and it won't be long before we see ECHL hockey again.
Yeah, speaking of hockey, we have something irrelevant to do with Braden Holtby being stuck at the border.
Yeah, I just thought this was funny. Braden Holtby's stuck at the border with his turtles because they don't have correct documentation.
His pet turtles. This is correct. You heard it here. We are bringing up this story. It is relevant.
Yeah, he's apparently they're working on it, but his wife and kids were able to go through, but he's stuck with his turtles at the border.
The turtles do need someone. I mean, they can't do it on their own, I'm sure.
Free the turtles, but I'm
sure
turtles, he'll get that figured out.
The opposite of turtles. These guys are pretty fast, skilled, and high-paced players on Team Canada. But was it Dylan Cousins and Kirby Dach actually arrived late for a practice the other day? We say late. I heard that it was actually technically 8:15 when the practice started at 8:15. However, when you're a professional, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. So they were on time, which was late. The coach had a discussion with them, and it was documented on camera. TSN released it. It looked like they fist bumped. They said, "Well, we won't participate in practice today." It looked like they had the choice to participate or sit out in the stands. They chose to sit in the stands. The next day, they showed up almost 30 minutes earlier. This is just interesting news. The kids have cameras around them all the time. I kind of feel bad for them. The coach also, you have a couple opinions on him, I hear.
So the practice started at 11:30 and they got out there right at 11:30. First off, I find highly suspicious because these two guys are high-level athletes and they know what they're doing. They know, whatever. Time doesn't matter. They were out there on time for practice. And then the coach is just ready, waiting for them with a camera already pointed, has a quick conversation with them, and they leave. So it kind of seems set up to send a message because then he made an announcement to the team afterwards. He told these guys, he was like, look, I gave these guys the option to skate and send a message that rules will be bent for our high-level players, or they can just take the hit and miss the practice. So I don't think these guys are late. I think they were told, come out right at 11:30. You can take the day off. I just want to send a message to players that are on the cusp. Because Kirby Dach and Dylan Cousins both have NHL experience. One of them has only played in preseason games. But these guys are not fringe players, right? Like they're at camp.
Kirby Dach played in the league, I think, with the Blackhawks for a couple games last year.
Yeah. So these guys are going to be on the team.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like it was.
Especially if you saw that the kid literally kicked the puck between his legs backwards to a guy coming down on a 2-on-1. It was a disgusting highlight if you were watching the development camp in the World Juniors in hockey. It was kind of all over social media. We won't spend too much time on the hero coach in Canada. We'll see what else Mike Babcock has to talk about because it is his anniversary of something.
1 year ago today, I was sitting at my girlfriend's brother-in-law's birthday dinner, and I was told, stay off your phone. And I was like, okay. No less than 90 seconds later, my phone starts vibrating like crazy. And she's looking at me like, are you fucking kidding me right now? I'm like, I'm going to take this. It could be worse. I pull up my phone, and it says, Mike Babcock relieved of duties, Sheldon Keefe to take over. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, boy. So I showed it to her, and she literally went, okay. So I left the room to kind of read the stories and all that. And so that's where I was when that happened. And it's been 1 year to the day. It feels like it's been 10 years that Mike Babcock was let go. The best thing to happen to the Leafs in the last year was that Sheldon Keefe took over because he kind of re-energized that team a little bit. Yeah. Do you remember where you were when it happened?
Was it a year ago? So recent, this past week, a year ago, you mean?
Today. It was today.
A year ago today. I was you know what? I was probably destined. We were talking about this in class, as us, we were, even our professors are kind of current. So I think I might have had, if it was a Friday like today, I know I had the teacher I had was always talking about social media. It's his social media Instagram page as well. So he was talking about current trades and players. And we brought up Mike Babcock, and especially because Mike Babcock was brought in upon like a little bit of adversity in the way he treated Mitch Marner when he was a rookie, with all that whole little under the table, make me a list of who you admire and don't admire type deal, which was just a stupid little thing that you remember Mike Babcock made Mitch Marner do that just broke when he got fired, as it was just like a devil. But Mike Babcock did a lot of things we don't necessarily like. One highlight is just the way he treated veteran Jason Spezza with ice time, especially with Jason Spezza coming home and being a veteran in the Toronto Maple Leafs lately. I remember a lot of people talking about Mike Babcock just being an absolute douchebag when it came to just being an honorable person on the bench.
Right, and he will probably coach again. I think personally he's waiting for the season before they go to the Olympics to get a job, because I still think that job is his, the Team Canada coach. It's not going to be his, but he's probably enjoying that paycheck, not working, sitting in his hunting cabin and fishing and
I got something for you.
all that stuff. So we'll see where he ends up. What do you got for me?
You said paycheck. Speaking of someone giving up a lot of their paycheck, we move right along into the MLB. Robinson,
not a swing and a miss. Well done.
Yeah, Robertson Cano will be giving up what looks to be $24 million in salary. What's this about? I know it has to do with the PEDs, but I didn't know about the money lost. Go on.
Well, if you don't play, you don't get paid. He's $24 million a year. You're not playing a season. You don't have to be a mathematician to figure that one out. He is forfeiting $24 million in pay after previously giving up, I think, 10 or 12 million in his previous 80-game suspension for the same thing. So this guy just doesn't learn in his career so far. He's giving up $36 million in suspensions because he's been caught with performance-enhancing drugs. I don't know why he feels the need to do this, but that is his fault.
When in New York,
right? It's the second time it's happened to him.
But what's going on in the MLB in
Chicago Cubs. So they're kind of the brains behind the whole operation. Epstein has stepped down from the Cubs, and he ended a 108-year World Series drought in Chicago and also one in Boston that was 80 years. So this guy knows what he's doing, and there's rumors that he's going to go to the Mets to kind of bring a winning touch to them, which would make sense with the hiring of their new GM and ownership. Ownership kind of overturned everything there, so they're going to be bringing a bunch of guys. No, that was that was the Marlins.
The Marlins, which is the mistake I made, which I hope that I just make sure we weren't making it again because it's just been brought back.
But ownership with the Mets has overturned everything there, and I think they're gonna.
I know she's not the Mets. I was just clarifying that she came from the Mets to the Marlins, which is something we care about, and she's always going to be highlighted as something that is a great story around the podcast. Besides the point, the Mets, Cano, and this.
I think they're going to bring him in and try to make a run. And finally, Tropicana Field in
WWE.
In Tampa Bay. The WWE currently are performing without crowds. They're performing right now at the Amway Center, but the Amway Center needs to be given up because the Orlando Magic have to go back and practice. So they will be moving into Tropicana Field. I just thought that was a cool story. They're going to move the Thunderdome there. The Thunderdome is a giant bowl of screens so fans can Skype into the show and all that. They've done a pretty good job with it. So that's what Tropicana Field's going to be doing for the next little while, probably until April. So I thought that was pretty cool. But moving on, we have some news out of the soccer world. Soccer world. We don't usually have much soccer talk, but FIFA have passed a new rule that gives women who leave the game on maternity leave rights to return, because I think what was happening was they were leaving and then not guaranteed to come back. So FIFA's passed a rule saying, like, no, if they leave on maternity leave, they're still guaranteed their job when they come back. So it's good they've done this. There was a couple other rules in there. I'll post a link below so we don't screw up any details on it, but it's a pretty important story. So I just wanted to bring it up and say, like, this is the steps that need to be taken. So
I agree.
That was pretty interesting. We have the MLS Cup playoffs starting soon. Toronto FC is looking to make a run after a pretty successful season, and they don't have to play in the first round because the first round is a play-in round. But they do have what am I looking at here? They do have a pretty tough run to the Cup. So they will the playoffs start today. New England, Montreal are playing, and then Nashville, Inter Miami, and then tomorrow we have Orlando City and New York FC versus Columbus and the New York Red Bulls. TFC do not play till November 24th against a to be determined opponent, and that would be the start of the playoff run for them. So best of luck to them. We'll kind of talk about it more on Tuesday when we know who their opponent is.
Yeah, you're killing it with the soccer talk. Finish it off with this last hitter in Euro.
So the Euro Cup was supposed to happen this year. It did not because of obvious reasons, the pandemic. And they finished up their qualifying this weekend, and the groups were formed. And there are some solid groups. So Group A, we have Italy, Switzerland, Turkey, Wales. You're looking at Italy and Wales to come out of that one. Group B, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, Russia. That's a solid group. Belgium's always a strong team, but we'll see how they stand up against Denmark and Russia. Group C, Austria, Netherlands, North Macedonia, and Ukraine. Group D, this is the one I got my eyes on because we got Croatia, Czech Republic, Scotland, and where I was born, England. Hoping England come out top on that group. Group E, Poland, Slovakia, Spain, and Sweden. And then Group F, which is the group of death. We got France, Germany, Hungary, and Portugal. I feel really bad for Hungary because they qualified for the Euro Cup. But to even make it out of the group stage, they're going to have to win 2 or 3 games against France, Germany, and Portugal, which is going to be just incredible to do. And so that kicks off next summer of 2021, but they're still going to call it the Euro 2020, which doesn't really make much sense. And then the following year, we'll have the World Cup. So
yeah, I'm glad that you have a little bit of tie to that with England from your home country, right? That's where you were born.
Yeah, and I love international soccer. I get behind those because it happens so rarely, right? Like every 2 years you have a tournament. So yeah,
it's
international
great.
soccer.
Speaking of a tournament that's rare, we got a tournament that's rare. With my hometown story too as well. Speaking of home situations, I'm a Dundas boy. Speaking of a Dundas boy, we have Mackenzie Hughes in the PGA world. We have mentioned him on the podcast before because I got confused. I got confused in the fact that he wasn't competing in this year's Masters, but next year's Masters, which is why I mentioned large events that only happen so often because of the Masters. It's not the only news in golf we have, but I'm not too sure on this story. What's this one with Mackenzie Hughes?
So he's playing in a tournament right now, and he is on baby standby. So his wife's due date is Monday, I believe, but babies come early. So he could be mid-round and has to leave because he's got to go and get his kid. He's currently tied 87th at 1 under, and the leaders. Sorry, he's even, and the leaders at 14 under. So I don't think he'll be missing much if he has to leave. But I just thought it was a funny story because it kind of reminds me of.
That's awesome. You know what? I'm so glad you brought that up because that's just going to be a great story for him and Dundas too, because it'll be his first son or his first child. I'm not
first
sure.
Child. It'll be his first kid. Yeah.
We don't know what the gender or any of that is. I'm sure I don't even know the story, to be honest. But he's having a child very soon. You know, you hope to see him in competition soon, especially if you're a fan like me. Speaking of children, Tiger Woods and his son teaming up for something. You want to go on?
Yeah, they're playing in a father-son tournament this weekend. Tiger Woods and his son will be playing as a duo in a father-son golf tournament. And I just thought this was really cool because Tiger Woods is taking time out of his tour schedule to kind of
this is great. I love this.
Play some golf. And
he's also been seen like padding for his kids' junior events, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because he can still do it. He's literally won the Masters only a year back, or a couple, and now it's probably been a year and a half, almost 2 years now back. It was the 2019, however, but he's still doing awesome dad things. And if your dad was Tiger Woods, regardless of situation, that man has the utmost respect in the golf world. And if you were seen on a golf course with Tiger Woods right now, you're in good hands.
Right. So it's the PNC Championship. It was formerly known as the Father-Son Challenge. And it sees like top PGA and LPGA golfers team up with a family member. So it doesn't have to be your son. It can be a family member. But it's the first time he's going to be playing in it with his son. He says he's really excited for their first official tournament together. But he has caddied for his son before at events. So it won't be the first time they're on the golf course together, but it'll be the first time they're playing together. So, and I'm sure there's a little side payday there for Tiger Woods because they want eyes on this tournament. So it'll be really cool to see, actually. I'm kind of excited to watch that. Hopefully.
Speaking of having things to have on, the Olympics is going to be something that's, just looked at in such scrutiny, no matter how it's kind of gone about in the terms of its operations or crowd or however the world looks like when the Olympics try to come back, it's going to be an interesting thing. And now we've already seen some news break on like regulations and policies that the IOC probably wants to have.
Yeah, so they kind of released, it's comprehensive. I think it's like 264 pages of new policies and stuff, but pretty much the gist of it is the Olympic Village will be kind of used as a hub for the players to not socialize, but kind of just to meet. So there's going to be no partying, no hanging around, no socializing with other teams. You got to stay in your own team bubble. So the Olympic Village won't be as lively as it was. I'm sure we all saw in 2010 how lively the Olympic Village was in Vancouver. In 2014, how lively it was there. In 2018 in Beijing, how lively it was there. So it's going to be, it's kind of a shame that it's come down to that, but that's what it's going to have to be because we want these games to go on, and
we just want to see some kind of international competition. I mean, we're going to see kind of professional athletes, no matter where their seasons are ending, coming in from. So hopefully there's kind of, as long as there's some safety regarding the Olympics, then hopefully there's some good competition.
Right.
Before we go on to some different parts of the Orion industry, if you'd rather, kind of where we're expanding our socials, I kind of just want to go back over so we can clip this part on the breaking news on the fact that the Toronto Raptors have now signed a deal to play in Tampa Bay. I said this earlier, but Tampa Bay is the city of champions. I want to mention that Tom Brady is kind of a championship contender in Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers, and you have the Lightning, which we're repping on the jersey here today. So it's kind of a culture, like I was saying, for Toronto to be in. They were trying to get access in Canada, but they've officially been given this spot in Tampa Bay, which hopefully they have some familiarities from the state and the bubble of Orlando, we're in Florida, where the bubble was held, like I was saying. Speaking of basketball, real quick, locally, I just want to bring up something that I've been doing some research on myself personally. It's the Canadian Elite Basketball League. It's the CEBL, otherwise known as. It has a lot of teams. It has teams in Guelph, Hamilton, Saskatchewan. And the league is introducing a team in Ottawa in the past couple year. It's a really new league as well. It has great talent and great highlights. I recommend their Instagram page and a team in your local area to everyone. But this is also a question I'm going to try to have for our followers on Instagram later on today. They've been mentioning on their own personal Instagram that they want to know where you guys think that a professional local basketball team should be held in Canada, especially if it's in a community that values basketball and competition. If you have a center that maybe could be holding of a team. I know that it's not the Cops Coliseum. It's the First Ontario Center holds the Hamilton Honey Badgers, which is the team in the CEBL. Maybe I'll release a poll if there's some couple cities or provinces or counties around the area that, it would bring you. Would you go watch a CEBL game? Hopefully that kind of basketball, they've been striving to push a professional level that kind of emulates the European game and the FIBA rules, which is great basketball. And, you want to see young talent and you want to see local talent. And they strive to actually have a minimum a rather required amount of Canadians on every team, so that no matter what the skill levels are from around the world, there are Canadians represented on the roster. They also offer some internships on their website if you're someone who's interested in working in the business. They're not paid, but they are for students looking for a position in the industry, like the Hamilton Honey Badgers offer this on their website, as well as the Saskatchewan Rattlers. I mean, I know there's probably not many people listening out in Saskatchewan. However, that's where I'm studying right now, not there physically, but their team from here. I want to mention the fact that it's local basketball, and it's something I'm getting interested into as well. And there's a lot of reason to be excited about the fact that professional basketball could be in a community near you in Canada. And let us know what you guys have to think on that. Speaking of opinion, what do you have to say?
So I was browsing Reddit the other day and I saw there's a lot of discussion posts. So I just kind of put up two questions in the hockey Reddit, and we got to reach out to other sports. But one question I put, and some of the answers were interesting: a rule in hockey that doesn't seem like it should be a rule. So I was asking people, what rule doesn't seem like it should be a rule? And my favorite answer from this one was not being able to headbutt the puck into your net, which is actually a rule. You cannot headbutt the puck into the other team's net. And that has happened a couple times. Colin White, most recently of the Senators, it happened to. And goalie's not allowed to play the puck past center ice. And then like a full-on fight happened in the comment section, arguing that the goalie would be used as the sixth attacker on the penalty, like on a delayed penalty. So it actually caused quite a bit of discussion, and it was pretty good. And another one that happened was you're not allowed to use like equipment that's not yours from the other team. So it did happen a while ago where I think it was Evgeny Kuznetsov stick got caught in the boards, and his opponent dropped a stick as well. So he picked up his opponent's stick and got a 2-minute penalty for it. But a couple of years ago, Bobby Ryan scored a goal with someone else's on the other team's stick, and then showed the player his own stick as if to say, haha, fuck you, I scored with your stick. So I thought that was interesting. And another question I asked, and this one kind of popped off a little bit, was what was your favorite moment that happened in an international game? So not NHL, not like the German league, not the Swiss league, not the KHL, like a country versus country. And obviously the most popular answer was the golden goal. We had Jordan Eberle's goal with 5 seconds to go against Russia in the World Juniors. We had like when Marie-Philippe Poulin won it in overtime. We had a bunch of answers like that. But I just wanted to bring attention to the story that happened. I think it was the 2019 Women's World Championship. Finland and USA were in the finals. It was the first time that a gold medal game wasn't Canada-USA, and Finland actually won it in overtime in Finland, so on home turf. And they scored in overtime. They were on the ice celebrating, throwing their gloves into the air, and the goal got called back in overtime of a gold medal game, and the States went on to win it on what should have been a goal, but the referees reversed their decision. So check this out on Reddit. I'll post a link down below. I'm going to be posting some fun questions like that across all sports, and the discussion was actually pretty interesting. So stay tuned for that.
That's awesome, man. I'm great. That was a good pace there. We want to get this out, especially because it's Friday and there's a lot of breaking news, and we want to get it out to everyone as quick as possible. So I don't really have too much else to say other than we're waiting for something to come in, and we're waiting for Sunday football.
Yeah, pretty much. Sunday football. I'm gonna place put some best bets online. Look for those Saturday night, Sunday morning. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We have a Facebook page. Like our Facebook page. Subscribe on YouTube. Comment. Reach out to us. Let us know what you want us to talk about. And Tuesday we will have a very special guest. We're not revealing who it is yet. We're just going to reveal it on the show. Maybe I'll post a teaser on Monday. But until then, stay safe. And yeah, bye.